All right. I want to say thank you for joining us today. My name is Autumn Rowe, and I am a SONA board member. We are continuing our Black History Month celebrations with the incredible Tayla Parx. Thank you so much, Tayla. I just want to give a little bit intro on you because your discography and your life and just you as a human, it's just so inspiring. Okay, just a little bit. I hope I don't make you blush. So, Tayla Parx is a history making behind the scenes force. She's streamed over 1 billion times and counting. She won the 2019 Hitmaker Award. She's the first female songwriter to have 3 simultaneous top 10 songs with Ariana Grande. She also wrote Panic at the Disco, High Hopes. She, there's so much about this. I love this woman. Okay. She's also a child star. She was in Hairspray. She was in so many cool shows that I loved watching personally. She's got her own project, her own albums. She's got companies. This woman is a mogul. Like if you don't know her name, please Google her, learn about her today. I'm so honored to have you, Taylor. I've known you for a few years through our songwriting community, and it's been really great just kind of digging into your story the past couple of days. So thank you.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah. So first, I'd like to just know a little bit about tell us about your like journey as a child star. What was that like?
It was interesting because I always started off singing, and then I randomly was like, I'm gonna join my best friend at a dance class, and it was run by Debbie Allen, and Debbie Allen was one of my first like mentors, and she was tough, you know. She's like, okay, you can sing, but can you dance, and can you act, and can you like, you know what I mean? She really placed like she really opened my world up as a creative, you know, and then that would end up turning into, you know, me acting for a few years and then making this decision to finally be like, whoa, songwriting is a job. And then there's a whole business behind the music business that's also interesting too at the same time. So it really was just a lot of different layers that came with the knowledge of things that were out there.
Right. What was your first job as like an actor?
My first job as an actor, um, like on TV and film or on like the stage?
Either.
Okay, my first few jobs were like, I think like 9 to 11, I was performing at the Kennedy Center, and I was doing some of Debbie Allen's plays. So like she would recreate some of the books that she had written, and that was like a really, really fun experience. And my first time being able to like be a part of a project that was like, oh, I can sing at and dance at the same time. And then that would end up making me fall in love with the role or the possibility of maybe booking the role for Hairspray, which was like, okay, this isn't on a stage, but it is something that I get to do all 3 of those things that I like, you know? And that was my first like intro into TV and film in that way, you know?
That's so crazy. So like I remember when I was a kid, I used to try to put lyrics to like TV song TV show songs that didn't have lyrics. Like when did you first know like maybe you could write songs?
That's so cute, first of all. Like I love that. When did I first realize? Well, my dad used to always like my dad can write. Like my parents don't do anything in the industry, by the way. Like, but they've always had really incredible like taste in music. And growing and now being a musician, I can tell like a lot of it was melody driven, right? Like I grew up listening to Babyface and Tony Braxton, like all of those, like just an amazing melody and lyrics as well. But that melody always got me. And my dad used to always be like, look, if you're gonna sing, you don't want to be like an artist that like can't like what if you go cold and then nobody wants to write for you? You gotta, you know, just see if you can do it, right? And so I think that, you know, my dad really just putting the idea of, wow, let me just see if I can. If I happen to not be able to write or whatever, then that's what that'll be. And then you know, that's fine too. You're still as much of an artist, you know, even if you don't do that. But he just wanted me to at least try. And that's when we discovered, oh, okay, I kind of like this. And then for years it would be annoying, like, listen to this, listen to this, listen to this. Like I was really, really lucky because I had supportive parents who were like, okay, I'm gonna buy you Logic, and you know, you can get on YouTube and do your things that you do or whatever. Because at this time, like, I was just able to like watch like Ryan Leslie and stuff online. Like that was the only producer. Like now, so many producers are like, why can we make this beat online? And you know, I'm giving out packs and stuff like that. But that wasn't what it was back then. You know what I'm saying? So it was really like, okay, now that we know that it exists, how do we gather up the tools to try to build something?
How old were you when you started using Logic?
Logic, I was around like 14, like 14 when I was using Logic. And before that, I had tried out other things like any type of program that I could like use for free or something like that, just to play around. You know what I mean? Like I remember I used to literally like had like charge for my studio when I was a kid, like 16 or something like that. And I would be like, okay, you can come in and I'm gonna mix and master and I'm gonna do all of the things or whatever. Like at one point I was learning how to do it all. And I was like, just trying to make a little dollar, you know, for the songs, but also just get my chops up. I forget about that completely, but it was just something that I was always like, okay, how are we gonna make this work, you know?
So you said two things that are tying into my next question. You said your dad was like, you know, what if you're a singer and you go cold and who's going to write for you? So that also like you just thinking about charging for studio time at, you know, as a teenager, which I love the hustle, by the way, brings me to my next question. So like basically you have a very, I feel like out of every songwriter artist I know, you stand out so strong. Like you have a very strong understanding of business, which many creators struggle with. How do you feel like you developed that? And what are some suggestions to other creatives to get stronger in that area?
I think it all starts with curiosity. For me, anything that I've ever been, you know, dedicated enough to like learn something about starts off with curiosity. And at the end of the day, I know that I want to be able to take care of myself years from now. I want to be able to, you know, hopefully have my kids be taken care of. And in order to do that, it's necessary for me to do sometimes in the beginning the things that weren't so fun. It wasn't so fun trying to figure out what these contracts that are meant to be confusing, by the way, mean, that people go to school for years and years and years to do. It's not about understanding everything perfectly, but it is about saying, okay, I understand the parts that are needed for this to work, and how do I put together the team that I specifically need to achieve those things, you know, because we a lot of times we end up being like, there's only one way to go about it, or you know, and if you're not going that way, people are looking at you crazy. I've gone through it, you know what I'm saying? I've gone through people telling me like, oh, you can't manage yourself. It's like, actually I'm starting a management company, and the things that I've been able to accomplish over those years have been through that, you know. And then it was like, you know, you can't be this young and do your publishing, or you can't do like all of these other things, but you just have to be curious enough about. And I've also had the type of personality that's like, how can we do this differently? Because the sentence that I hate the most is it's just the way that things are. And like, that's just how we do it. And that's just the way that things go. Like those types of things are toxic. And it's why we're in the situation that we are now, where we have basically a bunch of creatives who have been really like, just then this normal isn't what's working. You know what I'm saying? For the majority of people. So it's just about getting creative and being curious about the business. And I know it's not what every creative wants to do. And I'm not saying, oh, handle all your scheduling or you paying your taxes or boom, boom. I'm just saying, just take a moment to think, what do I really need from a team member and place those people around you, because you can get really creative these days. We're in a really, really beautiful space in music.
Absolutely. I have to just take a second and can we meet your dog?
Oh, this is Bella. I have 3 dogs. Like, but Bella, she's 16. She's been there. Like, this was like the first thing I ever bought. Like, when I had the money, I was like, can I buy a dog? Like, literally, she's been here with me through everything. So I'm like, this is Queen Bella. When I need to pick her up, I'm like, okay, girl. But yeah, my other dogs are running around. Hopefully they'll be good boys throughout this whole thing.
I had a Yorkie too. Sadly, I lost him in the fall of last year. He was almost 18, but.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank
like
you.
They are troopers, and they give you everything that you need while they're here, which is, just beautiful.
They really do. I want to ask you a couple other questions. Like, I was reading your first time you went to the Grammys, you won the tickets.
Yeah. This is something that I think of, every single time, because I'm just so grateful to even fathom the fact that, like, dreams for real come true. And I know that it sounds so crazy, but I have dreams come true literally every month. So it's just like, okay, let's do it. Even if it happens, even if it takes a year, it's like, it's worth it, or 10 or 15 or 20 years. My mom literally called the radio station and was like, my daughter wants to be a musician or whatever. I'm not sure if it was like at the point where I would want it to be a songwriter or whatever. But I literally, this is actually in that time where I was really like, okay, songwriting could also be a way to get a Grammy, because I had already been a part of the Hairspray Grammy nomination when I was 12 or 13. But it was a very different thing than like, your lyric or your melody or anything happening. But so my mom actually called in for me and we ended up winning these tickets. And I have diary entries of me being like, oh my gosh, like, we won the tickets. And like with the tickets came like things to the Grammy Museum, which had been like brand new at the time. Like it was like, well, they were doing a new like portion, I'm not sure, but it was something that I had never seen. And I was writing about it and I literally was like, the head of the Recording Academy, they talked to me. I was so excited. And then I was like, I signed it and I could continue to sign it. Maybe one day I'll be, nominated for something and I would sign a future Grammy nominee and put a little Winks face or whatever, but I have those and I go and I revisit them every single time. Now we're like 9 Grammy nominations in, but like every single time I go back and I'm like, I remember that kid that just wanted to even be a part of the conversation.
So what was the feeling of like going from winning a contest, being there, to actually getting your first Grammy nomination?
Well, you would see again in that same journal, I was like, okay, years later, it was like, okay, now we were sitting like really, really far back and like some crazy things are happening. And then each year would be like, okay, now we're getting closer and closer and now we're on the floor. And it was a very different feeling because this is something that came out of, my hard work, out of my soul, you know what I'm saying? That's where songs come from. And to be recognized, I think anybody, no matter what you do in this life, to be recognized for working hard and doing the things that you love to do, like that is something that it's a blessing, you know what I'm saying, what we get to do. And for me to be able to remember, because I think a lot of times, even now it happens when I don't journal enough, we go past these moments, we fly past them, and it doesn't matter as much when you actually get them because we're always on to the next thing. But being able to look back on that and have the perspective was really, really good for me to have, with everything that's happened in the span of, I'm 28 years old now. So like I'm always flying. So I need to remember those moments and how they made me feel,
I love that. How often do you journal?
I try to do it every day, but I slack sometimes. I used to journal very differently in those years. I was writing like full blown like stories. And this is my day, and I talk to like, hey girl, like I'm talking to my journal like a friend, you know. And but this lately, I've been doing this thing, like a friend got me a gift, and it's a mindfulness kind of journal. So it'll ask me the same 10 questions. It'll give me a place to vent, but it's really about like, okay, how well did you treat yourself today? Did you work out? Were you active like in any type of way? How much mindfulness did you do? What about gratitude? List 3 things that you're grateful for, things like that. Because my self-care routines have just changed over the time based off of what I need in that moment. Like, you know, yesterday, for instance, I had to do a very different thing because I'm usually scheduled 3, 4 months out. I know what I'm doing. And sometimes I know what I'm doing even further than that out. But I started to not have room for just fun or just room to let life happen, because everything was so scheduled, which is, you know, a huge reason why I'm able to have a million and one hats. But also the creativity was something that I had to like, okay, keep doing. So, you know, my self-care routines with journaling specifically, um and mindfulness has just changed over the years based off of what I need, you know, to fuel that fire.
100%. I have totally noticed that if I am not taking care of myself, I'm not going to be great in the session. And
Hmm.
it affects everything. Like, I am embarrassed to admit this, but one day I had a session and I was walking to the session and I was so overworked, so just burnt out. And I was in London. I saw a hair salon on my way to the session and just went in for 4 hours. For 4 hours
Honestly,
and did my
yes.
hair. And then I went 4 hours late. And that is so unprofessional. And I don't think anyone should do that. But the song I wrote after that was great. And I couldn't have done it without, I had to take a few moments for myself.
Yes, yes. I completely agree. I just had to do that yesterday. Not the hair salon thing, but I had to take like that day because I was so like, oh, oh no, no, no. We're not about to do this, girl. Like you need to take a beat. You know what I'm saying? And make some time. So which is I think another huge part of just, you know, what I like to promote, like as a creative and the journey that I've been on. And I know that it's all about the creative, you know, but let's also have those harder conversations. It's like, how do we continue to help the creative in a lot of different ways? And definitely mental health has been something that I've been speaking a lot on, in self-care in general. Proactive though, you know, not just when things get bad. Like, you know, we have a bad tendency to to just keep going, going, going because we enjoy what we do. When you love your job, it doesn't feel like work, but it actually is a lot of work. We manipulate our feelings often, every single day, you know, and especially if it's when I'm just in songwriting mode versus artist mode. That's a very different thing. You know, you have to throw away whatever you were feeling in that moment before you go into that door. So, you know, I think that's a huge, huge, huge aspect of why I've always been like, okay, look, anytime somebody's doing what they need to do for their self-care, if it's go to the hair salon for 4 hours, then that's what it is.
That's what it is. What a what's like what's your most inspiring scenario when writing music? Like, it could be with an artist or for yourself. Like, what's your supreme happy place?
Hmm. I think it's in good conversation. I could be anywhere. Like my happy place is in good conversation though, because I know that there's great songs in that. You know, like every song starts before you step into the studio. And so it's all about the life that you're living on the way to that song, really. You know, so if we can have a great conversation, I know that it's gonna lead to something honest as well. And that's also what makes a great song. So you know, it used to be like traveling, and I've been so around the world, and now I'm, you know, whether I'm having a conversation with somebody thousands and thousands of miles away or next door, I'm here for the conversation.
You just said something that I thought was really important. You said something honest. I
Mm,
find a lot of new writers don't understand the importance of writing from a place of truth. and are often chasing, you know, some people, we just want to hit sometimes. So you're just like chasing the melody or chasing this, but sometimes you just want to connect with something real, you know, at times. And like, what are your feelings on that? Because you said like coming from a place of truth, like what is the balance of finding a place of truth and creating a hit, or you know?
I think a hit song can only be an honest song for the most part. Every now and then you have something, you know, an artist that's just really great at pulling off, you know, whatever is put on them. And that's an art in itself, because it's not easy to do. Be not honest in front of millions and millions and millions and millions of people. That is a very hard thing to do. And something that's become even harder for people, which is why, I mean, fans want that, they crave that. Also, my biggest songs have just been the ones that are most honest to that artist. So it, you know, my niche, quote unquote, as an artist, I mean, as a songwriter, would be like being able to dissect that artist and really do a song that is great for them. You know what I'm saying? Like it's tailor made. It's something that is, this is specifically your version of what this emotion would be, you know? And that's a very, you know, going, that also I think goes into the art of songwriting though. I think that, you know, there's a difference between being an artist who's just putting songs on people and being a songwriter. There's a craft to that, you know, and I hold it to a very, very, very high regard. So yeah, every song that I've, you know, even High Hopes, like that was something I needed to hear at that time. You know, I felt like I was doing a lot and like nobody was recognizing those things. And like it would still be like, you know, man, dang, I mean, I kind of do have Grammy nominations. I kind of do have all these other things, but I'm still not getting those, you know, getting the same respect as some of my, you know, sometimes male or white or whatever it is, you know, colleagues. And it was something that I needed to hear. And so seeing those songs connect with people in a completely different way was just something that proved that fact even more, that an honest song is always going to be the one that wins, you know, big anyway.
Absolutely. And I have completely felt and still feel every day the same way you just explained. Like, can you explain to people maybe who can't even imagine someone as successful as you feeling that way, like with Grammy nominations, with all these hits, still in this industry feeling like you're not appreciated and valued and seen for exactly like who you are? Like, how does that feel, and why do you think that is?
It's so crazy because it really makes you feel um like it just makes you feel like, okay, like you first of all feel like you have to go 10 times above and beyond, right? You know, as a woman, especially as a Black woman. um and then thirdly, as a young Black woman, because they're like, you don't know anything. But I definitely think that it just, after you go above and beyond, right? The fact that it's still something that people try to take away after you, like, it's like, okay, what we, you said I couldn't write a pop song, I had numerous number ones on that chart. Like you said I can do this, then I have this many, I'm gonna go above and beyond. And it ended up being just a fun game for me and being diverse, and it ended up pushing me above probably what I would have even, you know, seen as success. But now, you know, knowing that like young Black girls will be able to look at that as a songwriter, because I had Esther Jean to look at, I had Priscilla Renee to look at, I had, you know, all these other things. But even then, that was still the we're just scratching the surface for all of the other things, the ways that music would open up. And they were somebody that I could look at and be like, they're writing all kinds of music, and that's like really, really, really cool. So to think like, okay, how can I go above and beyond in my own way and be able to inspire somebody the way that they inspired me? I have to kind of keep going, right? And keep going and going and do it in a crazy way. But it feels really, really hard when when it doesn't, it's like, what is that Kanye line? He's like, what's somebody like, what's a nigga in a coupe, a fucking road, like some, he says something like that, and he's like, I guess that's why they got me sitting here and fucking coach. Like, it's a crazy line, and it's like, okay, you know, but also in that same time, I've also had a lot of really great allies, and I've had a lot of people who supported me along the way too. So there is, at the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody who's not wanting to see you win, or they're not a part of lifting you up to see you win. But regardless of whether you lift me up or not, I'm going to fly. And that's just because I know that I can do it. Right. And even before I knew that I could, I'm going to say that I can, like, period, because there's only one solution here. Like, it's either I'm going to fail or I'm going to succeed. And I'm definitely not going to fail. So what are we going to do about it?
I love it. Do you feel like the industry like to put writers in genre boxes?
Yes, I completely think that. And I think that it goes beyond it. A lot of times people don't even realize that they're playing into shit that was being done in the 60s and the 70s, like just things that are really about like race. Like, they don't even realize that this is just a conditioning, and you know, the fact that they do business different based off of genre is weird to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird, and they do it. You know what I'm saying? Country music, it's different than the way that they do music, and pop music, and that's different than the way that they do. That's different than the way that they do business, and you know, hip hop or R&B, or you know, any of those different things. And I'm like, at the end of the day, I know that I've had some messed up business, regardless of whether it was a pop song or regardless of the genre. But a lot of the times it ends up being more messed up in certain genres. And I'm like, no. And they try to box you into these certain genres. And that's not what I'm here for. Like, in the beginning, it was just like a matter of, I think you keep people in this box, they have less control to influence. You keep them in that box, and they're working with the same collaborators, they're working with the same A&Rs, they're working with the same, you know, VPs, of the same, you know, people that are in that area. There is no cross-pollination, meaning also, when you're not doing that, you're not cross-pollinating ideas either on this business front. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't have these conversations. And when you box people into one thing, it's easier to get rid of them once you've gotten what you need from them. And the faster that they can get rid of them, the less that person has power. So it's like, okay, this person's getting too much power. We need to replace them with somebody else and start out all over. Same thing again, over and over and over. That's what they try to do. But at the end of the day, when you're diverse enough, when your role is necessary enough, there is none of that. Because you can start doing this, and then I'll do this here, and then, you know, whatever. There is no putting it all on one card. You know, and you can't do that in this industry. Like, pop music and top 40 and all of those things, they change by the month. So as a songwriter, it is your duty to be as diverse as possible. I'm not saying that you have to have a dream of being like, you know, pop, radio, blah, 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 like rock, all of these other things. That might not be what interests you as a creative. However, whatever your thing is, be as diverse as possible, because this isn't radio pushing what the trends are. Records are going in and out of the top 10 and, you know, the top 50 faster than ever in history before. So unless you want to have one song that does well, and good luck surviving on that, you got to be diverse.
Absolutely. It's 100% a form of oppression to box us into, you typecast us, or you can only do this, or you just do that, stay in your lane. All this kind of stuff is oppressive mentality that comes from a long, historic, systemic, messed up system. And it's incredible, people like you just taking a stand and showing, you know, look, you're playing in you're in your own world. So it's either like, for me, it's like you're in Taylor's world or you're not. So just, it is what it is. Exactly. I'm gonna wrap this up soon. I know you're a busy lady. One more songwriter question. What do you think are like the biggest challenges for new songwriters right now?
Hmm. I think the biggest challenges for new songwriters right now are being able to navigate the fact that there's no rules and there's so many at the same time, right? Like we are kind of in the wild, wild west of the music business right now. Something that hasn't, like, I feel like every 20 years or every however many 30, 40, however many years or whatever, there's always a big shift that happens in in any industry. And right now we're in that shift. And when you have so many options, it can also be very confusing, right? And the good thing that we have is a lot of knowledge and all of those other things. But when you're creating your ideal type of music business or your ideal type of team, and it could look like anything, it could be tough. And so, where we have it really amazing is that we have the knowledge to be able to say, okay, so typically you would have to do a manager, and this is what the deal would look like. And now not knowing that there's people, you can have two, three managers you want. So you can have, instead of, or you can have a company of managers doing whatever, which they're doing the same thing using numerous managers, or you can have one person and that can work. Like whatever it is that works for you, like that's what I think is the future of the music industry, and also empowering the creative. And it's a tough thing because there is no blueprint, but there never was anyway in the music industry. There was never one way of going about it. So now that you have even more freedom and more like big businesses honestly being able to say, okay, we're willing to work with you a little bit, because we know that if not, they're just going to spawn a new company that's going to eventually be competition. And that's, you know what I'm saying? So we have a really, really special, a really, really, really special time right now to make your companies or your brand or whatever it is look like what you want to do it. So don't get caught up in the confusion. Just keep it simple on what do you need, and that's a thing that you have to discover along the way.
Right. I just wanted to, if maybe, okay, so I basically wanted like 3 tips that songwriters or artists or producers can do to make their own journey tailor-made.
Mm. 3 tips that songwriters or creators in general can do to make their journey tailor-made. First of all, believe that you can even before you know that you can do it. First off, you have to just believe the impossible, because a part of what you're achieving every day, being able to say, I'm waking up and I'm doing what I want to do for work, um, having a hit song out of all of the songs that are written in the world, to say that, wow, you could have a hit song. Those are things that seem impossible, but they happen all the time, right? So you have to believe in the impossible and believe that it's something that is right next to you. One. Two, don't be afraid to redefine what an industry could be based off of what you feel like it should look like. Believe in that enough as well. Like, because usually when I don't like the way that, if I don't like a way that a recording studio is run, I'm just like, okay, well, how would I like to see it run? Okay, I'm gonna make one. Or whatever. I'm a very type of, okay, you don't like it? Well, do it yourself and see if you can do better. That's my personality. Don't just complain about it. Do something about it. Try it. You know what I'm saying? You might end up finding, oof, actually, the way that that person was doing it made a lot of sense. Or actually, now I'm get to inspire the way that they were doing it. And now we're creating a new normal. So that's what I've done with things like the burnout experience is very different than a typical camp, or it's very different. The way that I run my publishing company is very different. I don't have a bunch of writers that are like unhappy and unrecouped. Like I'm walking them into these deals and saying, I think that this might be better long term. No resentment, no nothing, but I think that this might make sense, for you in particular. And that deal might look different than the other people that are on the roster. So that's number 2. Just imagining how you feel like would be the ideal industry for whatever it is that you do. And number 3 is definitely have fun along the way. Because when you're balancing all of these different things, and it's always about the next, I've been there. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of those things that will eventually catch up to you if you're not having enough fun. And you'll hear it in the music that you create. You'll hear it in the conversations that you have, because it'll sound like, oh yeah, I just been in the studio all day, or yeah, I've just been working, or yeah, that's not life. So when your conversations start, when somebody asks how you are, or what have you been up to, and the only thing that you've been able to say is that you're working, that means that you're not having enough fun. And inevitably, it's going to show in your music. So that's the third important thing, is to have fun along the way.
Amazing. Those are all fantastic pointers. And our last question, where is Tayla Parx in 20 years?
Tayla Parx in 20 years. Let's see. I'll be 48. Probably sailing. I've been very into boats these days. I've been very into boats these days. Like, I'm like very into it, like watching people build it from scratch. Like, so probably doing that, definitely going to some different gardens, like, from around the world. Love that. Things that I'm interested in now. I'm living my life like, what do I want my life to live like in 20 years? And let's do it now. Living that, what does my morning routine look like at 50 or 48 or whatever? Let's do that now, so yeah, probably that. Just like being in my garden, definitely, on my publishing side, looking at those companies be a part of creating the new normal, and seeing so many other companies ran in a similar way or a better way, or whatever it is, more efficient. It's just about, starting those seeds now, so that they can grow into something that is like, what, definitely. I always used to say this, like, in my 30s, I wanted to be able to retire, and I'm able to do that. I know that I won't, but just the freedom of knowing that I could is like, okay, well, I guess all that we have from here is to just have fun and keep going and stay inspired, which is easier said than done, I guess.
You're such a boss, and that's why you are breaking the past ceiling. Thank you so much, Tayla, for having us. Please let us know your socials and anything you want to talk about that's coming up next.
Yes. You can hit me up at Tayla Parx at TaylaParx. And you're gonna be seeing me back on the screen this year. I'm playing Donna Summer in a film, and it's a very fun thing, just kind of being back on screen in that way. And then obviously more music. I'm going to be releasing music here in the next few months. So a new single called Rich. And then also, yeah, just, I guess, keep up with me on my socials. I try to keep it loose and make sure that I'm able to leave room to let life happen these days. So just keep up with me.
You're so dope. Thank you so much, Tayla. I love you so much. You're fantastic.
I love you, man.
You're the best.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. I am Autumn Rowe here with Sona. You can go to wearesona.com. You can follow Sona at wearesona.la on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Autumn Rowe, Autumn Rowe Music, autumnrowe.com. Just Google Autumn Rowe. It's super easy, ROWE. Thank you for joining us. Black History Month, breaking the past ceiling, and go out there and be freaking awesome, and just just do what you want to do. All these rules are meant to be broken, and go be a boss, be like Tayla, be Tayla-made, and just fucking live your life.
Literally.
Bye, girl.
Bye.